Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 11 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on, unfortunately. Just a disastrous season continues. It's pretty solid week. Only had to win one of the two primetime games to wrap things up, Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. If I won both, it would have been an amazing week. Of course, lost both. Lost on the Steelers with the points on Sunday Night Football, and then here on Monday Night Football, I bet the over, and it's 3-0 with going into the fourth quarter. So just a disaster, man. This season has been bad. So I do have the updated record here. So that's for this week, 7-7 minus 0.34 units. Season to date record brings us to 65, 83-1 for minus 15.87 units. We're on pace for the worst season of the road to 272, and it's not even close. But I will look at this in a positive light. I'm set up for the biggest comeback ever. You know what I mean? We still got time to do it. Great moments are born from great opportunity. We have a great opportunity for a great moment. Let's storm back. How many weeks left? So this is week 10. There's 18 weeks. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 weeks left. 8 weeks left. So plenty of time. Listen, that's, an average of a profit of 2 units per week, and I'm back to 0 before the end of the season. Underdog picks. I went with the Giants. They were winning the entire game, blew a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go. That happens. I was going to go Saints money line. I should have gone that as well. I should have been more aggressive and taken 2 big money lines. Saints would have been a great winner. They did cover for us, but obviously if I would have just bet the money line like I wanted to, that would have been even better. But I can't complain too much because I won the Texans. Despite betting the Texans when they were minus 1.5 before C.J. Stroud was officially ruled out, I still won because of a defensive touchdown on the last play of the game. So can I really complain about not winning Giants? I don't think I can. I think that takes away my right to complain about the Giants. Yeah. So, 7 losses were Steelers, the under in lines, Commanders, Buffalo, Giants, Browns +2, giving up 2 special teams touchdowns. It does feel like I would like to see all the special teams touchdowns that have happened this year and see how many have happened on teams I've bet on and how many have happened against teams that I've bet on. And also, here's another lucky one. The Falcons and Colts went in overtime, and if the Colts could have just kicked the game-winning field goal instead they opted to go down and score a touchdown, they just kept giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor, and he scored, so that ended up covering Colts minus 5.5. So I can't really complain about the Giants at the end. That's certainly not why I had a losing week. It is just frustrating to really be on my way to winning week and then lose both Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. I win both of those. I'm up 3 units on the week, so over 3 units. It is what it is. Before I get into the picks today, I want to talk about stolen valor and stolen valor for miserable sports fans, which is a trend that I'm seeing. This is, by the way, full disclosure, I've now reached the anger phase of grief when it comes to losing the Blue Jays World Series. I've noticed on the internet, on social media, it's become trendy and cool to just pretend like you're a tortured fan of the team that you cheer for. And I'm seeing fans of teams who have no business acting like they're tortured, acting like the worst thing in the world is being a fan of their team. I saw someone today complain about how the Penguins dragged them through hell. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the team has 2 Stanley Cups in the past 10 years, 3 Stanley Cups in the past 13, 14 years. What are the Penguins? I would love to have 3 Stanley Cups. That's your definition of hell, is being a Penguins fan? I saw someone else. What was the team I saw earlier? A team that had just won a Super Bowl within the past 10 years, I think it was. I saw a Bruins fan complain about being a Bruins fan. Must suck being a Bruins fan. You got the 2011 Stanley Cup, and if you're a Bruins fan, you live in Boston, who has 25 championships the past 20 years. And not only Patriots fans, you had 20 years of dominance, you had 4 years where your team wasn't that good, and now you're back to being a Super Bowl contender, and your young quarterback is an MVP candidate in his second year, the MVP favorite in his second year. What the hell did Boston do to deserve this kind of luck? And here I am, fighting and clawing every single season for 1 championship, and I got none again. If your team has won a championship in the past 20 years, but especially if it's in the past 10 years, you can't complain about being a fan of that team. You're not allowed. It's ridiculous. It's like the trendy thing. People complain about being a fan of their team, a team that's recently won a championship. Stop. You can just be a normal fan. You don't have to be a tortured fan. Not every season is going to end in a championship. You can't claim to be a tortured fan because your team hasn't won the past 3 years. Try being 0 championships in 32 seasons. Try that. 32 years. Not even 32 seasons. 32 years across 3 different sports. Try that life. You want to talk about being a tortured fan? Try that. Oh, boo-hoo. My last time that my team won a championship 10 years, well, it was 10 years ago. Whoa, wow. This is hell. I can't believe I cheer for this team. They only won in 2017. That was so long ago. Are you fucking kidding me? I ain't taking that shit anymore. I'm going to start calling people out. Go back and watch your championship DVDs. How about that? I wish I had a championship DVD to watch, but I don't. Instead, I have 28-3, and I have the Blue Jays being 2 outs away. And I 1 inch on an IKF slide away. A Dalton Varsho pop fly, sack fly away. So that's the theme of the week. Stolen valor. It's getting out of hand. My culture is not your costume. All right, let's get into it. It's the NFL Week 11 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 marches on. All right, let's get into my picks for this week. We got 15 games this week, only 2 teams on bye. Off the top of my head, it's the Saints and the Colts. It's the Manning bye week. I guess the Giants would have to be on bye week too, but the old feller, Archie Manning and Peyton Manning. I don't know why I thought of that. Anyways, I got to get into my picks for this week here. 15 games, 15 picks. Eagles just scored a touchdown. 10-0 Eagles. Doesn't matter because I bet the over, and there's no. You only need what? 35 more points. 5 more touchdowns in the last 10 minutes, and I can hit the over. All right, let's get into it. Thursday Night Football, Patriots, Jets. Once again, I'm sticking with my theme because I do think I'm right in saying this. I've talked about this the past couple of weeks, at least last week. I do think the gap between the top 5, top 10 teams in the NFL and the bottom 5 teams in the NFL is as wide as it's ever been. So that's why I'm betting on a lot of big favorites this season. Last week, how did that work for me? The Bills lost outright, so it didn't work in that spot. The Cardinals won and covered. The Lions won and covered, but I took the under for some reason. So yeah, it generally worked last week. It's not going to work every single time, but I do think that the betting market still thinks these bad teams can hang with a good team. And even though the Dolphins, last week, yes, they're a terrible team. They have some talent, at least on offense. The Patriots, I will lay the 11.5 points on them. Not only are the Patriots significantly better than the Jets, you don't need me to tell you this, you know this by now, but the reason why I'm willing to lay the 11.5 points is that this is a terrible stylistic matchup for the New York Jets. Why? Well, because the way you can attack the Patriots defense is by throwing the ball. Their secondary has not been good this season, but their run defense is extremely good. One of the best run defenses in the NFL, rank inside the top 10 in both opponent rush EPA and opponent rush success rate. So what do the Jets do well? Run the ball. What do they not do well? Throw the ball. So they do not have the facilities to attack the weakness of the Patriots defense. The Jets actually can't throw the ball at all. I think we also know this. They're averaging 19 fewer passing yards per game compared to the next worst team. So they just simply can't throw the ball whatsoever. Justin Fields is terrible. How many yards did they throw for last week in their loss against the Browns? Or their win against the Browns, I should say. 54 yards. He completed 54.5% of passes for 54 yards. Yeah. If you can't throw the ball, I don't know how you beat the Patriots. You can't run on the Patriots. You have to throw the ball. And if you can throw the ball at least a half-decent clip, you can do it. So I don't know how the Jets are going to score points. Now, I said the exact same thing about the Raiders last week against the Broncos, and the Raiders didn't score points, but the Broncos only scored 10, so they didn't cover. I think the Patriots offense with Drake May is good enough they can score 21 points is going to be enough to cover the spread. Like 3 touchdowns, that should be enough. Hell, 17 points might be enough to cover the spread. Yeah, don't be fooled by the Jets' score against the Browns last week. That was 2 special teams touchdowns. So you take away the 2 special teams touchdowns out of 27 points, they have what, 13 points? They had 169 total yards of offense. Browns really let that one slip away on special teams, eh? 3.6 yards per play. Yeah. Listen, there's going to be time to fade the Patriots at some point coming soon, maybe even against a bad team. The time to fade the Patriots is not going to be this week on Thursday Night Football against the Jets. I'll take the Patriots minus 11.5, minus 107. Moving on to Sunday slate, we're going to start with the final European game of the year. This one is in Madrid. It is the Commanders and the Dolphins. And I will go over 47.5 at minus 104. The under bet on the Commanders lines last week was a bad bet, to be completely fair. The Commanders defense is horrible. I don't know why I bet the under in that game. It was because I liked the Lions defense, but I even think when I gave out the pick, the Lions might just score enough points that the over hits, and that's kind of exactly what happened. These are the 2 worst defenses in the NFL, the Dolphins and Commanders. 27th and 30th in opponent EPA per play. They're also in the bottom 10 in defensive DVOA and bottom 10 in opponent success rate. So even with Jaden Daniels out of the lineup for this game, Marcus Mariota will play again. He's serviceable enough to move the ball against the Dolphins defense. I'm not buying into the Dolphins defense is good now after their performance against the Bills last week. The Bills just shot themselves in the foot. Turnover on downs, bad play selection, bad play by Josh Allen. Dolphins defense is bad. Commanders are talented enough to exploit it. And the Dolphins offense is actually not terrible. Not terrible. And I think the Dolphins offense can move the ball against the Commanders offense as well. So I'll go over 47.5 at minus 104 on Sunday morning in Madrid in Spain. Bengals and Steelers, a little AFC North action. The Bengals coming off a bye week. I will lay the points with the Steelers at minus 5.5. I'm not going to what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to fall for the trap that was set by the Steelers having a terrible Sunday Night Football game. I'm not going to overreact. That's the word I was looking for. It's later tonight than it usually is. I'm not going to overreact to the Steelers' bad performance against the Chargers. I think that was an outlier performance. I think that was the worst game Aaron Rodgers played all season. And the Chargers' defense sneakily has actually gotten a lot better the past few weeks. So I will buy in on the Steelers at home against a Bengals team who is overrated. A Bengals team who they keep being in close games against bad teams, and people think that they're actually half decent. They aren't. The Bengals are a bottom 5 team in the NFL. They're 31st in net yards per play, last in net yards per play on the road. So they're actually extremely bad when playing on the road. Minus 2.3 net yards per play away from their home stadium this season. They're 28th in DVOA, dead last in opponent EPA per play. Their defense might be the worst defense I've ever seen. So I'm not scared to lay the 5.5 points. I think the Steelers defense, TJ Watt and company, will be able to really attack an immobile Joe Flacco. And I think they can win and cover on their home field. So I'll take the Steelers minus 5.5, minus 105 against the Bengals in this one. The Panthers and the Falcons. The Falcons continue to let games slip away. It's rough. It's a rough year as a Falcons fan. Now, the blow is softened by a couple things. The blow is softened about the Falcons that I didn't think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. I thought they were certainly a playoff team. That has proven to be incorrect. I think they're as good as a playoff team. I think they're good enough to be a playoff team, but they've let too many winnable games slip away. They should have beat the 49ers. They should have beat the Colts. They should have beat the Patriots, lost an extra point, lost to the Colts in overtime. They should have beat the Buccaneers in week 1. And if you let 4 games, very winnable games, all 4 of them slip out of your grasp, you're not going to make the playoffs. That's the way the NFL works, unfortunately. In a 17-game season, you can't choke away 4 different games. You win 2 of them, and it's a completely different season. The margins are too slim in the National Football League to lose 4 very, very winnable games, especially 4 games in one half of a season. They basically need to win out. That's not going to happen. And positives, their pass rush is fantastic. A lot of people are saying, a lot of Falcons fans are pissed that we don't have a first-round draft pick. It's like, it worked. The strategy worked. The pass rush is not the problem. Our defense is for the most part, very good. We can't stop the run, but we can get after a quarterback, which is why we spent 2 first-round draft picks on it. So the strategy worked. The issue is coaching. Raheem Morris is not the guy. Zach Robinson's not the guy. Michael Penix, I still have a lot of patience for Michael Penix. I like his poise in the pocket. He makes some very good throws. He's just inaccurate at times. And accuracy can be fixed. I think of all the quarterback traits, I think accuracy can be improved on. Josh Allen was very inaccurate his first 2 seasons. And don't forget, Michael Penix didn't play until the last few weeks of last season. He still, has less than a full season of football games under his belt. So, 9 plus 3? He's played 12 NFL games. So, he still looks like an NFL caliber quarterback. He's patient in the pocket. I like him in interviews. I think he learns from his mistakes. He's just been inaccurate. He's just missed guys. He missed Kyle Pitts in a wide open touchdown. He made some bad throws this weekend. But I think he can fix that. Give him at least another season. If he's still, as inaccurate this time next year as he is right now, then I might be a little bit panicked, but I'm not panicked at all. This is not, I wanted to make the playoffs, but this is not the Falcons here. They get Kirk Cousins off the books in the offseason. They can sign some guys in the offseason, and then you attack it again next year. Hopefully, they move on from their coaches, because Raheem Morris is not the guy. Zach Robinson's not the guy. With all that being said, I'm going to take the Falcons. I'm going to lay the points with the Falcons this week, -3.5 and -105. The Panthers are bad. While the Falcons are better than their record shows, the Panthers are far worse than their record shows. 27th in overall DVOA, 26th in EPA per play, 23rd in opponent EPA per play, 29th in net yards per play. They're bad. I know they shut out the Falcons earlier this year. Their offense couldn't do anything. The Falcons offense just had an all-time bad game. I think the Falcons bounce back. They're on their home field this time. They're the better team. Their defense is going to cause some issues for Bryce Young again. I will take Falcons -3.5, -105 to split their season series against the Panthers. The Texans and the Titans. Don't let the bye week from last week for the Titans fool you into thinking this team is competent. The Titans are the worst football team I've seen in years. Now, they can cover a spread, but they would need things to go their way in a similar fashion that they went their way when they beat the Cardinals earlier this year. In a season with some bad teams, some really bad teams, the Titans are last in DVOA, last in net yards per play, last in EPA per play. They're horrific on both sides of the football. They just traded one of their best pass rushers to the Ravens. Now they got to take on a Texans team that, yes, likely won't be without CJ Stroud, but the Texans defense is elite. So I don't know, unless it's by special teams or it's by a defensive turnover and a touchdown, which is possible. But I would need double-digit points to take the Titans in this spot. I set the Texans as 9.5-point favorites. That's how far off I am from this line. So I'm not going to hesitate. Give me the Texans -7.5 and -102 against the Titans. Packers and the Giants. This was at 7.5 earlier today. I'd assume it's probably going to open up around that. I mean, even if the Packers lose this game, it has been what it has been. I will take the Packers -7.5, -120 against the New York Giants. I would probably stick around to see if Jackson Dart plays this week. I'm guessing this line is based on Jackson Dart playing. He's in concussion protocol. If he doesn't play, I'm going to guess this skyrockets up to 10.5. Who's in? Russell Wilson? Yikes. The only redeeming quality the Giants have right now is Jackson Dart. He has dragged them to some games being much closer than what they deserve to be. Jackson Dart, in my opinion, has actually been very good with no weapons in his starts this season. So if he doesn't play, the Giants have nothing. How's Russell Wilson going to stay in this game? He's thrown to Wan'Dale Robinson. And now, obviously, the Giants have fired Brian Daboll. Now, you're going to hear some handicappers out there who are going to bet on the Giants because of, that idea that the first week after a coach gets fired, then a team's going to come out fighting. I don't think that's going to be the case. That wasn't the case for the Titans earlier this year. Their first week after firing Brian Callahan, they didn't win or cover. So I'll lay the point. I'm a little bit surprised it's not a bigger spread. Maybe it'll reopen tomorrow to bigger spread. I don't imagine it will. But I will lay the 7.5 points with the Green Bay Packers. Bears and Vikings in a game between two teams, so I wish I could fade both of them, but I can't. So which team do I want to fade more? The Bears, who continue to win really close games against bad teams, or the Vikings, who have a quarterback who calls himself 9 and who might be the cringiest, corniest player I've ever seen play in the NFL? I'm going to fade the Bears. I'll take the Vikings minus 2.5. The Bears stink. They suck. The amount of late and improbable wins they have against really bad teams this season is amazing. Blocked a field goal to beat the Raiders. Scored on a Hail Mary late in the game to beat the Bengals. Not quite a Hail Mary, but a deep pass. Came back to beat the Commanders. Came back down 10 points to beat the Giants. So 4 late comeback wins for the Bears. One of the worst 6-3 teams I've ever seen. They're 24th in DVOA, 23rd in net yards per play. Now their schedule becomes significantly tougher. Yeah, this is a winnable game for the Bears against the Vikings. And the Vikings do have problems of their own. JJ McCarthy's not good. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. I don't think I've ever seen group delusion like I've seen about JJ McCarthy. I get being hopeful for your young quarterback. I get being like, yeah, this guy can develop a new good quarterback. You know, you guys all know I was just talking about Michael Penix. I was kind of coping with Michael Penix not being as good as I expected him to be. But it's like the TikTok edits of JJ McCarthy, and like there's like a clip of like him running in against the Lions for a touchdown. And then he comes back to the sideline. He's like, yeah, like I was going to lay my shoulder down. I was going to fucking smoke that guy, but I decided to lay up and not do it. And like Vikings fans are like, yeah, he's a fucking dog, bro. Our quarterback's a fucking dog. He was totally going to crush that guy. It's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? He calls himself 9. When I put on the pads, bro, I just turn into 9. I start seeing red, bro. I start seeing red. Man, when I get the face paint on, man, I just start seeing red, bro. You can't fucking stop me, bro. You got to call me 9, bro. Watch me throw for 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, bro. I don't get it. Like I said, it's not just Vikings fans being hopeful. It's like they're arrogant about how good JJ McCarthy is. It's like, why? For what reason? Anyways, I wish him well. I wish him well, especially this week, because I'm going to take the Vikings, because I think the Bears are that bad, and I'm pissed off the Bears continue to win games they don't deserve to win against really bad teams. So, give me the Vikings, minus 2.5, minus 120. I'm going to take the under between the Bucks and the Bills. I was on the over in the Bucks game last week. That one did hit against the Patriots. So I'm going to flip around and take the under. Because the Buccaneers defense has actually gone a lot better lately. Since week 6, the Buccaneers rank 5th in opponent EPA per play, 4th in opponent success rate. They've also been able to stop the run. They're 2nd in opponent rush success rate in that time frame. And now they take on a Bills team who ranks 5th in offensive yards gained through the run, with 39.86% of the yards coming from the run game. So the Buccaneers offense has been a top 5 unit since week 6, and their specialty is stopping the run, which is what the Bills rely on. Offensively, the opposite has been true for the Buccaneers. 24th in EPA per play, 21st in success rate since week 6. Obviously, that has a lot to do with their injuries, but I don't see any sign that they're necessarily getting healthy this week. So I think the Buccaneers are going to be a more defensive-minded team, and I think the Bills, maybe they have some offensive issues. I can't really figure out the Bills, to be honest. They look like a Super Bowl winning team one week. The next week, they look like a borderline playoff team. I don't get it. So just based on the Buccaneers alone, with how their offense and defenses have been trending, I think this total's too high at 49.5. So I'll go under 49.5, minus 108 between the Bucs and the Bills. Chargers and Jaguars. I will continue to fade the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are not good. You know, I see the Jaguars and the Bears as very similar teams. The Jaguars are feeling that regression a little bit earlier than the Bears. But the Bears are going to be in a very similar situation before too long. I called them a few weeks ago the most fraudulent team in the NFL, the Jaguars, and now they haven't covered in 4 straight weeks. They haven't covered since beating the Chiefs 5 weeks ago. They're 17th in DVOA, 27th in net yards per play. Trevor Lawrence, I talked about this last week, 31st among starting quarterbacks in expected points added plus completion percentage over expected. Only Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel have been worse. I will repeat that. In EPA plus CPOE, expected points added plus completion percentage over expected, only Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel have been worse than Trevor Lawrence. That means the quarterbacks who have been better than Trevor Lawrence: Carson Wentz, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, Marcus Mariota, Michael Penix Jr. I mean, name any quarterback who's played a significant amount of time and he's been better than Trevor Lawrence this year from an analytics standpoint. Meanwhile, I know the Chargers have a lot of problems on the offensive line, but their defense has woken up over the past 3 weeks. Their defense has led the NFL in opponent EPA per play and success rate. So a defense that good, I think, is going to cause the Jaguars offense a ton of problems. Maybe bet the under based on the Chargers not having an offensive line and the Jaguars offense stinking. But I'm going to lay the points with the Chargers at home, -2.5, -117. Funnest game of the week. One of the games I am looking forward to the most all season. But it's not prime time, which sucks. The Seattle Seahawks taking on the Los Angeles Rams. The battle for the NFC South. The winner of this game will be in the driver's seat to win that division. And this is my upset pick of the week. I will take the Seattle Seahawks plus 130 on the money line. It's time for me to put my money where my mouth is. I think the Seahawks are the best team in the NFL. This is actually kind of interesting because from a DVOA perspective, the Seahawks are the best team in the NFL. From a net yards per play, they're the best team in the NFL. Plus 0.4 net yards per play, better than any other team. From an EPA perspective, the Rams are a better team. And I think the reason why is because the Rams have been able to turn the ball over and not turn the ball over themselves. They have an average turnover margin of plus 0.8. The Seahawks have an average turnover margin of minus 0.4. Now, is that because Sam Darnold turns the ball over than Matt Stafford? Is that because the defenses on either side have maybe a little bit more turnover variable luck? So it's interesting. If you value DVOA and net yards per play a little bit more, you think the Seahawks are better. If you value EPA more, then you value the Rams better. I think the Seahawks are the better team, so I will put my money where my mouth is. I will not lay the price. I will bet the plus 130 money line on the Seattle Seahawks. You can take your points. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm very, very high on the Seahawks team. I'm very, very high on Sam Darnold, who leads almost every single quarterback metric. I'll take them plus 130 against the Rams. That's going to be a fun one. I will be locked in for that one late afternoon on Sunday. Sticking in the NFC West, we have 2 NFC West games this week. The other one is the 49ers and the Cardinals. I will take the Cardinals plus 3 minus 114. I'm not high on the 49ers. I think they showed their true colors against the Rams this past week. The metrics show, and this is the same thing I talked about last week with the 49ers, they're an average team. 15th in both net yards per play and DVOA. Defensively, they've fallen down to 26th in opponent EPA per play and 30th in success rate. I know defensively they're basically starting a skeleton crew because of their injuries, but once again, I don't think this week they're overcoming those injuries. I don't think they're getting enough players back this week for it to matter. Maybe by the end of the season, they get enough players back that they might be suited for a dark horse Super Bowl run if they can get in the playoffs. But now they're on the road against a divisional opponent and they're laying 3 points. That doesn't sit right with me. I don't think this 49ers team deserves to be in that spot. I know the Cardinals haven't been good either, especially defensively. But I will take the field goal worth of points. Now, if it was down to 2.5, I might go a different direction. But we're getting a full field goal on the Cardinals on their home field against a 49ers team I really don't believe in. Give me the Cardinals plus 3 minus 114. The Ravens and the Browns, we're going to back another big favorite here. The Ravens, in case you needed a more indication, more than just the fact they're 3-0 in their last 3 weeks, since they came back after their bye week, so their bye week was week 7, since week 8, They're 10th in EPA, 9th in success rate, 6th in opponent EPA, 9th in opponent success rate. So they have been a top 10 team since they returned from their bye. Now, the Ravens haven't been playing at the elite level that we expected to see from them heading into the season. They're not playing at a Super Bowl winning level, but they are playing significantly better than they were before their bye week when their season got off to a disastrous start. So right now, let's look at the Ravens as a top 10 team. Number 8, number 9, number 10, you can argue that. But I think the metrics show they are now a top 10 team in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Browns. Defense, very good. Their offense has been the worst in the NFL. They're averaging the fewest yards per play at 4.1, 30th in EPA per play, 32nd in success rate. Why don't they just start Shedeur Sanders? See what Shedeur Sanders has at this point. Because Dylan Gabriel stinks, and it's sad to watch Dylan Gabriel. And if Shedeur Sanders sucks, then you can say, hey, we were right not playing Shedeur. Let's go back to Dylan Gabriel. But maybe give the guy a chance, at least, right? I think the Ravens are going to continue to roll. I will lay the 8.5 points on the Ravens, minus 110. A lot of divisional games this week. It feels like it. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it feels like it. All right. The Chiefs and the Broncos, speaking of divisional games. I've been waiting to fade the Broncos. I should have done it last week. Against the Raiders, I didn't. I'm going to fade the Broncos this week. Chiefs minus 3.5, minus 110. Andy Reid has historically been very good coming off a bye week. And let's fade the Broncos offense. I know it's obvious to say after their game against the Raiders, but just to kind of put it in perspective from a number standpoint, 19th in offensive DVOA, 18th in EPA, 28th in the NFL in success rate, 19th in yards per play. Bo Nix is 25th in EPA plus CPOE. So almost as bad as Trevor Lawrence. Not quite as bad, but almost as bad. Great spot to buy in on the Chiefs here. This is very funny to me because this is bizarro world last year's Chiefs. Last year's Chiefs were 15-2. They were like an above average team in terms of metrics. I know they went to the Super Bowl. Relax. I'm not taking that away from them. They're a different team in the playoffs. In the regular season, they were 15-2, but like had the metrics of like a 10-7 team. This year, they're probably going to end at like 10-7, but they have a metrics of like a top 5 team. Their metrics are significantly better this year than they were last year, but not nearly as good as a record. That happens in the NFL. You know, if the NFL was 162 games like MLB was, these things would even out. In a 17-game season, crazy things happen. Teams have bad records that deserve better. Teams have good records that don't deserve them. That's the nature of the league. Offensive numbers for the Chiefs have been very good. They're 5th in overall DVOA, so by DVOA, they're the 5th best team. They're 3rd in EPA per play. They are top to bottom, I think, a much better team than the Broncos. I will lay the points of the Chiefs on the road, minus 3.5, minus 110, in Denver, coming off their bye week. Sunday Night Football, I'll be interested to see where this line reopens, but I was able to get the Lions as underdogs. I will take the Lions plus 102 against the Eagles. I just think the Lions are the better team. Everyone talks about how good the Lions offense is, and for good reason. I don't think enough people talk about how good their defense is. 10th in opponent EPA per play, 5th in defensive DVOA, 7th in opponent yards per play. This is the best defense the Lions have had in the Dan Campbell era, and no one's really bringing it up. So the Lions were always very good because they could just outscore their opponents. They can stop guys now. Not something I'm used to seeing. If you were to ask me right now what team would I bet on to win the Super Bowl, I think I'd bet the Lions. Yep. I think I would bet the Lions right now at 8-1. The Eagles, not quite as good. Now, their defense has looked better than it has this season tonight. Their offense has not looked as good. But at the end of the day, their metrics have them as a good team, but not a great team. I think the Lions should be favored, even with this game in Philadelphia. I would set the Lions as 1.5 point favorites. They're 1.5 point underdogs. So just fuck the points. Give me the Lions on the money line plus 102. Finally, Monday Night Football, Raiders against the Cowboys. I will take the 3.5 points with the Las Vegas Raiders. Sometimes I have a take about a team that doesn't come through for me, and then I get off the take, And then they prove I was right all along, and I just didn't stick with them long enough. And that's what happened last week, the Raiders. I've been saying the Raiders aren't as bad as people think, aren't as bad as the market indicates, aren't as bad as public perception. I got off that last week, and then the Broncos beat them only 10-7, and the Raiders covered. I'm going back on that take. Now the Raiders won't win, and they'll lose by 20. But I don't think the Raiders are a bad team. They're not a playoff team. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL. But I don't think they're as good as some people think. I don't think they're as bad as some people think. I don't think they're as bad as the market indicates. 19th in the NFL in net yards per play. Pretty good. They have a net yards per play of plus 0.2 when playing on their home field. Their defense has been solid. Yes, the Broncos offense is not good, but it's hard to keep any team to 10 points. And they did that last week against the Broncos. Now, the Cowboys offense is very good, but their defense stinks. I know they picked up a couple pieces on defense. I don't think that's going to make a massive difference this week. And the Cowboys offense sputtered a little bit in their last game as well. So I'm going to take the 3.5 points. I mean, on the road, the Cowboys, I don't think are a good enough team for me to want to lay 3.5 points on them on the road against a West Coast team. Is Vegas West Coast, I guess, a West team? Give me the Raiders plus 3.5. I certainly don't think, I'm not confident enough to say they win that game. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think having the 3.5 points could prove to be very crucial in that game. Raiders plus 3.5 at minus 113. So there you go. Those are my bets for NFL Week 11. Let's recap, then let's talk Survivor, and then we will talk Teaser of the Week. Picks for this week. Patriots minus 11.5, minus 107 against the Jets. Commanders, Dolphins over 47.5, minus 104. Steelers minus 5.5, minus 105 against the Bengals. Falcons minus 3.5, minus 105 against the Panthers. Texans minus 7.5, minus 102 against the Titans. Packers minus 7.5, minus 120 against the Giants. Vikings minus 2.5, minus 120 against the Bears. Bucks, Bills under 49.5, minus 108. Chargers minus 2.5, minus 117 against the Jaguars. Seahawks plus 130 against the Rams. Cardinals plus 3, minus 114 against the 49ers. Ravens minus 8.5 against the Browns. Chiefs minus 3.5 against the Broncos. Lions plus 102 against the Eagles. Raiders plus 3.5, minus 113 against the Cowboys. My best bets last week went 5-0. So if you followed my best bets, you had a 5-0 week. We won on the Colts. Now the Colts, depending on the number that you got it at, they were 5.5 when I bet them. They got up to 6.5 during the week. Then before kickoff, and went back down to 5.5. The Colts ended up winning by 6. So that bet depends on what number you got of that. Obviously, I got to the 5.5, so that was a win. One on the Saints to cover against the Panthers. One on the Texans to beat the Jaguars. One on the Ravens. One on the Rams. So 5-0 with my best bets. Most seasons I've done this, my best bets and my overall bets finish with a similar win percentage. This year, my best bets have been way better than my overall best bets. Like if you've just tailed my 5 best bets at the end of each show, you'd be in a much better spot in terms of win percentage. It is what it is. There has been seasons I've won with all my bets and then did worse with my best bets. So it is what it is. My best bets for week 11. I like the Falcons to cover against the Panthers. I like the Packers to cover against the Giants. I like the Chargers to cover against the Jags. I like the Seahawks to cover against the Rams. Chiefs to cover against the Broncos. So Falcons, Packers, Chargers, Seahawks, Chiefs. Those are my 5 best bets for week 11. I didn't talk. Yeah, okay, let's talk Survivor now. So yeah, best bets, Falcons, Packers, Chargers, Seahawks, Chiefs. Survivor. If you are still alive in the official Road to 272 Bet Survivor pool, you're down to the final 19 people. There are 19 entries left with $4,401 US on the line. I am one of those 19 people. You guys cannot allow me to win my own Survivor pool. If I do, I will take the money. I need the money, I'll take the money. But you can't let me win my own Survivor pool. At least one of you guys got to take me all the way to week 18 and we split the pot. Last week, 5 of you lost on the Bills, 4 of you lost on the Panthers. Bold call taking the Panthers. I did not like the Panthers in Survivor whatsoever. I will admit, if I had the Bills available, I probably would have taken the Bills, and I probably would have lost on the Bills. Panthers, I never would have taken the Panthers in a million years in that spot. I get why people did. You get to use a bad team. You save all the good teams. You take a bad team against an even worse team. I get it. But the Panthers, way worse in the record. They're not nearly as good as people thought they were. 5.5 point favorites in that game was crazy. My pick for this week, for this pool, is easy. It's the Texans. And if you have the Texans available still this week, I would recommend you take them. There's no other good weeks to take the Texans. They're 7.5 point favorites against the Titans. The only other week you could take the Texans is week 16. They're home to the Raiders. I'm not taking them that week because I have the Chiefs save for that week, which is my trump card. Almost no one has the Chiefs left to take. Almost everyone's taken them already. My goal in my Survivor pools is to get to week 16 because week 16, the Chiefs play the Titans, and I get to completely relax that weekend. And it's the third last weekend, and hopefully I win my Survivor pools on week 16 with the Chiefs. It's my little trump card out of my pocket. I'm waiting and holding till week 16. So that's the only other week you can take the Texans. So since I'm not taking the Texans that week, I guess I may as well take the Texans this week. Now, if you don't have the Texans available, which, let me talk to you about my other pool that I'm still in. I'm also in Joe Ostrowski's pool. It started with 1,729 people. There is $75,643.75 US on the line. I am one of 93 entries left. I'm still alive. I took the Ravens in that one this past week. This week, I'm in a little bit of a dilemma. Yeah, so the road to 272 pool, I'm taking Texans. There's nothing to say. If you have the Texans, they're an obvious pick. My Joe Ostrowski entry, I do not have the Texans. I'm in a pickle. There's 3 teams I could take. I could either take the Falcons at home to the Panthers, who are 3.5 point favorites. I take the Cowboys on the road to the Raiders on Monday Night Football. That seems risky, especially, I'm taking the Raiders plus 3.5. Or I could take the Steelers at home to the Bengals. So which of those, because none of them are big favorites. The Steelers would be the biggest favorite at 5.5. But that's Bengals beat them earlier. Cowboys are 3.5 on the road to the Raiders. Falcons are 3.5 at home to the Panthers. Once again, Panthers beat them earlier. I think I'm going with my Falcons. Which sucks. Because that would be so Falcons of my Falcons to not only lose, but lose in a week I need them to advance. But I like the Falcons in that spot so much. Now, I have my picks for that pool completely laid out from now until the end of the season. I could switch things around. Because the Falcons do have some other, they still have to play the Saints twice. They're on the road against the Jets a little bit later in the season, so there's other opportunities to take the Falcons. But I like how my season lines up right now if I get past this week. Obviously, that's a big if. I think I'm going to do it. Right now, I have the Falcons keyed in. I obviously have all week to change things. Oh, I meant to mention this. Last week for our pool, for the Road to 272 pool, when I recorded the podcast, I said I was taking the Seahawks. I switched. I took the Lions. I said I was going to potentially switch. I said it wasn't locked in. I did end up switching the Lions. It turns out it didn't matter. They both won very handedly. But I did switch, so I use the Lions, and I have the Seahawks later to use. I have them pegged in right now to use week 17. But I digress. I'm fine with the Texans for the Road to 272 pool. If you have a strong take about who I should take between the Falcons, Cowboys, and Steelers and Joe Ostrowski's pool, hit me up. Because this is a tough week. So I think I'm going to roll with the Falcons, but fuck, that does not make me feel good. Teaser of the week. Last week's teaser. It won for me. Now, the issue was if you listened to it Tuesday morning and you bet on it Tuesday morning as soon as the episode was released, you also won the teaser. If you listened to it later in the week, the teaser leg all of a sudden wasn't good, and if you did bet it, it didn't win. Because last week I took the Browns, who were at plus 1.5 at the moment that I recorded. So I teased them up to plus 7.5. They lost by 7. Once the Jets traded all their players on Tuesday, the line flipped, and then the Browns were, -2, I think they closed. So then it wouldn't have made sense to tease the Browns, because then you're teasing through 0, which you're not supposed to do. If you did it anyways, it wasn't enough points, and you lost. So it's a teaser win for me. It's a teaser win for anyone who listened first thing Tuesday morning. It's a teaser loss for anyone else. I'm counting it as a win. We got the Browns up to plus 7.5. We got the Patriots up to plus 8.5 or whatever. They won outright, so that was easy. So another teaser win for ya boy. This week's teaser. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy one. Texans are the most obvious teaser leg of all time. Against the Titans, we're taking them down from 7.5 down to 1.5 against the Titans, against the worst team in the NFL. All they got to do is win by 2. And then we're taking the Seahawks up from plus 2.5 to plus 8.5 against the Rams. If I like the Seahawks to win outright, I love them getting 8.5 points. Both these bets, both these legs cross key numbers of 3 and 7. So we're golden. Texans minus 1.5, Seahawks plus 8.5. My 2-leg 6-point teaser for NFL Week 11. There you go. This has been the NFL Week 11 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on.